well, it's time to talk about my 22nd ranked Longhorns, surprisingly dropped this week despite a win. It was a win against UTSA. The Roadrunners, meep, bye. They're gone. Got blown out by 21, so that felt good. What didn't feel good was that first half, though. A little bit of lethargic start by the Longhorns. I wasn't impressed terribly by their defense. They are currently going to be 6.5-point favorites on the road, going to Lubbock. Tortillas flying everywhere, I'm sure. I'm excited for this one, mostly because you have to think they turned the corner, right? I mean, a game like the UTSA game, as slow as they started, I was impressed by them because a team like that is usually those trap games, those letdown games that the Longhorns have been snake bitten by before, and they didn't let it happen against a wild coach, Jeff Traylor-led Roadrunners team. Texas Tech, Texas. What do you think, Kyle?
Well, at the start of the season, remember when we did our preseason preview of the Longhorns, where we talked about how last year they finished 8th in the Big 12, and in order to climb up the rankings, they would have to beat all the 7 teams that were ahead of them, because they'll beat the shit out of Kansas. They'll beat the shit out of West Virginia. Those teams aren't any good. This is
pump the brakes there. Just Kansas is starting 3-0. Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Listen. I don't want to put that evil on myself either, but all due respect, Lance Leopold's doing something up there.
He's doing something. I still think they're only better than West Virginia in the Big 12. That's my thoughts. I could be incorrect, but I believe in Kansas.
They were only better than my alma mater, New Mexico State, as of a few years ago. So that kind of tells you how much of an improvement they have had. But yes, again, Texas
you
Tech,
are correct.
Texas
Tech,
that's where our focus is.
Texas Tech, I would regard as the 8th best team in the Big 12. Therefore, this is the beginning of the climb for Texas back to the rankings of the Big 12. If you want to think of it this way, a win this week is the jump from 8th to 7th, and then a win next week is 7th to 6th. Little by little, this is how Texas continues their climb to relevancy. And of course, we expect Texas to win this game. Of course, we expect Texas to beat Kansas State. We probably expect Texas to beat Iowa State, even though Iowa State is 3-0 and going to make a bowl game and be pretty good this year. Like, we expect them to win these games. Everything on paper says they're better. The game against Alabama says that the program's ahead of schedule. Of course, that's the case. It's just now that little by little, they're going to happen and avoid the disappointments that sometimes happen to programs. It doesn't usually happen to programs like Texas when we're talking about the resource advantage that they have against schools like Texas Tech. So they should win this game in year 2. It's a game that usually when Texas loses to Texas Tech, someone's getting fired. It doesn't have to be the head coach, but someone's getting fired within the athletic department. So Texas expects to win. They should win, but this is like, if they win this week, they're now 7th in the Big 12. And then next week, they'll be 6th and then 5th. And then they'll get to the Oklahoma game and it'll be another measuring stick.
Okay. I see where you're measuring this is. You're looking at it almost like a Mortal Kombat combat tower, where you're just kind of working your way up. You're beating everyone up until you get to Shao Kahn. Okay, I respect it. I respect what you're saying here. When I look at this matchup, I think the bigger story for the Longhorns going in this game is going to be the health of their quarterback. Yes, DeMarvion Overshown, him not being on the defense, that hurts. But Ewers not being in there, you can kind of tell they played it more conservative against UTSA. They took a couple shots with Hudson Card, but he couldn't connect, mostly because Hudson Card's just not as talented as Ewers. And I appreciate any backup quarterback that could go in, give a confident effort against an Alabama defense, a Nick Saban-led defense. But the UTSA game, I don't think the Hudson Card was doing anything that really made the Longhorns better. Probably made them worse, to be honest. So one thing that I took away from Sark on Monday practice, they all practiced today, which is positive. Talking about his quarterback room. They didn't all practice last week. If you listen to the broadcast, they were talking about Quinn Ewers and also saying that he was slinging the ball around. He looked like he was ready to go. So what I think is going to happen, I don't think he's going to play this week. I think the Longhorns are going to play it conservatively, say, I think we could beat Texas Tech on the road with Hudson Card. I think we can do that. Maybe they do a slow ramp up and have Ewers out there against West Virginia, because you're really getting ready for the Oklahoma game. That's around the corner for you. That's what your season is going to be made or broken on. As much as, you don't want to lose these games because those will feel awful. If you beat Oklahoma, you had that almost game against Alabama, you maybe finish the season with 8 wins. You're feeling pretty good about how the season went overall. I mentioned it in the preseason. I think you beat Oklahoma. That's the win that Sark needs on his resume. So I don't think that you should risk Ewers being out there against Texas Tech, because you should be able to beat Texas Tech without him. Donovan Smith, so the quarterback for the Texas Tech Raiders, he has the 110th quarterback rating in the nation. That kind of tells you the level of quarterback play you're going to see. The defense, if they could play the second half defense that they had against UTSA, as opposed to the first half effort that wasn't really there, if they could play the effort that they had against Alabama, they should be able to smother Smith. They should be able to smother this Raider offense, even without Overshown. So I like their ability to do that. They have some guys on the defensive line that I think can really like overpower that offensive line and just make it difficult for the Red Raiders all around. I like them to win this game. 6.5 point spread. I understand it just because when you're, again, talking about a backup quarterback, you're talking about these shootout games, because I think the Red Raiders might be able to just get into a shootout. That's always within the range of possibilities. Backdoor covers, I think, always are within the range of possibilities in these Big 12 games. I'm just hoping that the Longhorns bring that same level of defense and Card just could kind of get them by for another week. That's what I'm hoping for.
The spread reflects that, right? Like even without your defensive captain and your 5-star quarterback and your running back playing at like 80% or 85% or whatever Bijan Robinson's at right now, like even with that, they're still a 7-point favorite. And part of that is Texas Tech actually doesn't have a great offense this year. And the fact that I bet you and I both can't name the head coach at Texas Tech if we were given infinite guesses at this point. I know He comes from Baylor. I know he comes from Baylor, but I don't know his name. I think it starts with an S. Could be wrong about that. But anyways, like Texas Tech is a team they should beat. I'm not invested in the rivalry and like the Red River and the rah-rah of Texas like you are in Austin. So like the way I look at it is they were going to lose to Alabama. Now, obviously, they almost beat Alabama, and it was shocking. But like going into the year, assumed they were going to lose to Alabama, and there would be 3 games that would be underdogs in this year: Oklahoma, Baylor, and Oklahoma State. And if you won one of those games and avoided any embarrassing losses, it would be a huge success for Texas. So like, yes, Oklahoma is the game that would define the season, perhaps because it's the rivalry. I look at it as like, if they win one of the games against Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Baylor, and like don't lose at home to West Virginia, then this will be a successful season for Texas and like something you can build on. And perhaps in your last year in the Big 12, go on to potentially finish second place in the conference or maybe win the Big 12 title or whatever you want to set the expectation at for years down the road. But yeah, Texas Tech should be a game they win. And let's not get it wrong. Steve Sarkisian's offense is simple. Like I remember I was watching the playoff game for Bama 2 years ago and basically called the plays that Sark ran for the first 7 plays in my living room. But like they will run the simple offense with Hudson Card. They will probably win the game. And if they don't, or if they play it close, we can evaluate like how we got to that point. Yeah. Were there turnovers?
You get a
fumbles, whatever would happen.
You get a pass in any loss you have with Hudson Card as the quarterback, I think.
Okay. But if they miss a bowl game, then
you don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Well, that's, banking on Ewers missing significant time this season, I would say.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
But looking at their
have to happen for that.
Yeah, looking at their full schedule breakdown, it's like they have a Mortal Kombat ladder game and then a measuring stick game. So it's like, I mean, they're going to beat West Virginia at home. They're going to destroy West Virginia. But like Texas Tech, then Oklahoma, then Iowa State, then Oklahoma State, then Kansas State, then Baylor. It's like they get one game to move up the ladder and then one game to kind of measure where they stand against the 3 programs that Texas hopes to one day reach with Steve Sarkisian, even though they were already there with Tom Herman, but they just didn't like Tom Herman. So they just tore it down and started all over again.
Yep. Hopefully we'll like Sark more. Just to read off Joey McGuire, because Joey McGuire is the head coach of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. His head coaching resume or his coaching resume, he was a high school football coach from 1995 all the way up until 2016. Cedar Hill is where he coached. Then he became the Baylor tight end coach 2017, 2018. And he was there all the way up until 2021 when he took the head coaching job at Texas Tech. Joey McGuire, let's not get Jerry Maguire. Don't show me the money. Hook 'em. Let's win this game 3-1 on the road. All right. From Juju, from Kyle, stay safe, happy, and healthy. Like the channel, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. And we will see you next time.